They thought it was just an old watch, worn, faded, civilian, until the general stepped closer and went dead silent. Because that wasn't just a Hamilton. It was the kind they only issued to ghosts, those never meant to return. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If this story resonates with you, consider subscribing for more tales of unrecognized heroes. The morning briefing at Fort Carson's Strategic Operations Center was running precisely on schedule when Captain Aria Blackwood entered the room. She wore standard ACUs with minimal insignia, carrying only a weathered leather portfolio and wearing what appeared to be an unremarkable civilian timepiece on her left wrist. The other officers barely glanced up as she took a seat in the back row, her presence as unremarkable as her appearance suggested. Major General Harrison Cole stood at the podium, his chest adorned with decades of service ribbons, combat decorations, and command badges that spoke to a distinguished career spanning multiple theaters of operation. He was briefing a joint task force on emerging threats in the Middle East, his presentation enhanced by classified intelligence reports and satellite imagery that painted a grim picture of evolving terrorist networks. The situation in the Kandahar province has deteriorated significantly, General Cole explained, gesturing toward a map displaying red zones of enemy activity. Our conventional forces are struggling to adapt to the enemy's new tactics, and we're seeing casualty rates that are frankly unacceptable. Captain Blackwood listened with professional attention, occasionally making notes in her portfolio. Her movements were economical, precise, betraying no emotion, as the general described operations that had cost American lives and strategic momentum. To the other officers present, she appeared to be just another staff officer absorbing briefing material for later analysis. Colonel Sandra Martinez, the intelligence officer leading the threat assessment, stood to present her portion of the briefing. The enemy has demonstrated sophisticated understanding of our operational patterns, she began. They're anticipating our movements, countering our tactics, and exploiting vulnerabilities that suggest access to classified operational intelligence. At this statement, several officers shifted uncomfortably. The implication that their security had been compromised was deeply troubling, particularly given the recent losses in Afghanistan. General Cole's expression hardened as he absorbed the intelligence officer's assessment. "Are we dealing with a security breach?" General Cole asked directly. "That's the working hypothesis, sir," Colonel Martinez replied. "The patterns suggest someone with access to mission planning and operational details has been feeding information to hostile forces." Captain Blackwood's pen paused momentarily on her notepad, though her expression remained neutral. She glanced at her watch, a subtle movement that went unnoticed by the other attendees, focused on the disturbing intelligence briefing. "I want every officer with access to these operations vetted immediately," General Cole ordered. "Full background investigations, polygraph examinations, financial audits. We will identify and eliminate this security threat." The briefing continued for another 45 minutes, covering tactical adjustments, enhanced security protocols, and revised rules of engagement designed to counter the enemy's apparent intelligence advantages. Throughout the presentation, Captain Blackwood remained virtually invisible, taking notes and occasionally checking her timepiece with the casual indifference of someone tracking routine meeting duration. As the briefing concluded, officers began filing out to return to their respective duties. General Cole gathered his materials, discussing follow-up actions with his senior staff. It was during this informal post-briefing conversation that he noticed Captain Blackwood approaching the front of the room. "General Cole," she said quietly, her voice carrying barely enough volume to be heard over the conversations of departing officers. "I'd like a moment of your time, if possible." General Cole looked up from his papers, taking in her unremarkable appearance with the automatic assessment of a senior officer evaluating subordinates. "Captain." He paused, realizing he didn't recognize her from his staff. "Blackwood, sir, I have some information that might be relevant to your security concerns." "What kind of information?" General Cole asked, his attention now focused on this unassuming officer who claimed to have insights into their most pressing operational challenge. Captain Blackwood glanced around the room, noting that several officers remained within earshot. "Perhaps we could speak privately, sir?" General Cole considered this request. Protocol dictated that unknown officers should go through proper channels, but the severity of their current security situation made him willing to entertain unconventional sources of information. "My office, 5 minutes," he said curtly. General Cole's office reflected his long career and high-level security clearance. The walls displayed photographs with presidents, foreign dignitaries, and senior military leaders from around the world. His desk held secure communication equipment, classified documents, and personal mementos from deployments spanning 3 decades of service. When Captain Blackwood entered, General Cole was reviewing classified cables that had arrived during the briefing. He gestured toward a chair without looking up from his reading. "You said you have information about our security situation," he began, still focused on his documents. "What exactly are you talking about?" "The intelligence leaks affecting operations in Kandahar aren't coming from your staff, General," Captain Blackwood said simply. This statement made General Cole look up sharply. "Explain." "The enemy isn't getting information from compromised personnel. They're getting it from predictable operational patterns that have developed over repeated deployments. Your security protocols are sound, but your tactical patterns have become readable to anyone with sufficient analytical capability." General Cole set down his papers, giving Captain Blackwood his full attention. "And you know this how?" "Because I've been analysing those same patterns for the past 18 months, she replied. "The enemy's apparent intelligence advantage comes from pattern recognition, not security breaches." "Your intelligence?" General Cole asked, though her uniform bore no indication of specialised assignment. "Among other things," Captain Blackwood answered. General Cole leaned back in his chair, studying this unremarkable officer who claimed specialised knowledge of their most critical operational challenges. Something about her calm confidence suggested capabilities that weren't reflected in her modest appearance. "What's your current assignment, Captain?" "That's classified above your level, sir." The statement hung in the air between them. A captain telling a major general that information was classified above his level was virtually unheard of in military hierarchy. General Cole's expression shifted from curiosity to suspicion. "Captain, I have cosmic level clearance. There's very little that's classified above my level." Captain Blackwood remained silent, her expression unchanged. General Cole stood from his desk, his imposing figure intended to emphasize the disparity in their ranks. "I think there's been some confusion about chain of command here, Captain. You don't tell a general that anything is above his clearance level." "I understand your position, sir," Captain Blackwood replied calmly. "But my current assignment operates under authorities that supersede conventional military hierarchy." "What authorities?" General Cole demanded, his patience clearly exhausted. Instead of answering verbally, Captain Blackwood raised her left hand and adjusted her watchband slightly, revealing the timepiece more clearly. What General Cole had dismissed as a civilian Hamilton suddenly commanded his complete attention. The watch face bore markings that shouldn't exist. Instead of standard time indicators, it displayed coordinates and classified reference codes that General Cole recognized from highly compartmentalized intelligence operations. The serial number etched into the case began with a prefix that belonged to equipment issued to personnel who officially didn't exist. General Cole's face went pale as recognition dawned. He had seen watches like this exactly once before, during a classified briefing about deep cover operatives whose activities were so sensitive that their existence was denied at the highest levels of government. "Where did you get that watch?" he whispered. "It was issued to me," Captain Blackwood replied simply. General Cole sat down heavily, the implications of what he was seeing beginning to register. The watch was a Hamilton, but not just any Hamilton. It was part of a series manufactured exclusively for operatives conducting missions so classified that they couldn't be acknowledged by any government agency. "Your Ghost Division," he said, more statement than question. Captain Blackwood neither confirmed nor denied the assessment, but her silence was answer enough. Ghost Division was rumoured to be a collection of operatives who conducted missions that officially never happened. They prevented terrorist attacks that were never reported, eliminated threats that were never acknowledged, and gathered intelligence that shaped national security policy without appearing in any official documents. "The Kandahar situation," General Cole began, his understanding of recent events shifting dramatically. "You've been there." "I've been monitoring the deteriorating situation for some time," Captain Blackwood confirmed. "The enemy's tactical advantages aren't the result of intelligence leaks. They're the result of our forces falling into predictable patterns that can be exploited by anyone with sufficient analytical capability." General Cole picked up a secure phone, then hesitated. If Captain Blackwood was indeed Ghost Division, contacting his superiors might compromise operations he wasn't cleared to know about. "What do you need from me?" he asked instead. "Access to your operational planning staff and mission archives for the past 24 months. I need to identify the specific patterns that are being exploited and develop countermeasures that will restore tactical advantage to our forces." "You can fix this." "I can provide solutions that will significantly reduce American casualties while improving mission success rates," Captain Blackwood replied. "But I'll need complete access to classified operational data." General Cole considered this request. Providing such access to an officer he couldn't verify through normal channels violated every protocol he had followed throughout his career. However, the watch on her wrist suggested authorities and capabilities that transcended standard military procedures. "I'll need some kind of verification," he said finally. Captain Blackwood reached into her portfolio and produced a single document. The letterhead bore seals and classifications that General Cole had seen perhaps a dozen times in his entire career. The authorization was signed by individuals whose names he recognized, but whose positions weren't officially acknowledged. The document granted Captain Blackwood unprecedented access to operational intelligence and authorized her to implement tactical modifications as she deemed necessary. The classification level was so high that General Cole required special clearance just to read it. "This is authentic," he said, after examining the document carefully. "It is." General Cole made his decision. "You'll have complete access to everything you've requested. What else do you need?" "A secure workspace and 2 of your best analytical officers. People who can think beyond conventional tactical doctrine." "I can arrange that immediately. How long will you need?" 72 hours to identify the exploitable patterns. Another 48 to develop and implement countermeasures. General Cole nodded, then paused as the full implications struck him. "Captain, if you can actually solve this problem, you'll be saving American lives on a scale that—" "That's why I'm here, General," Captain Blackwood interrupted quietly. Over the following 3 days, Captain Blackwood worked with unprecedented access to classified operational data. She analyzed mission reports, casualty statistics, and tactical summaries with a level of detail that revealed patterns invisible to conventional analysis. Her insights were both brilliant and disturbing, showing how American forces had unconsciously developed predictable behaviors that enemy forces could exploit. Working 18-hour days in a secure facility beneath Fort Carson, Blackwood methodically dissected 2 years of operational data. Her analysis revealed that American forces had fallen into unconscious patterns that were as predictable as a metronome to any adversary with sufficient analytical capability. "Look at this," she explained to Colonel Martinez during their second day of intensive analysis. On the wall-mounted display, she had mapped out convoy routes, patrol timings, and communication schedules from dozens of missions. Every Tuesday and Friday, logistics convoys depart Bagram at precisely 0630 hours. The route varies, but the timing is constant. The enemy has learned to position IEDs based on these predictable schedules. Colonel Martinez studied the data with growing alarm. "We thought varying the routes provided security." "Route variation is meaningless when timing remains constant," Blackwood replied. "The enemy doesn't need to know which road you'll take if they know exactly when you'll be traveling." The analysis continued, revealing layer upon layer of unconscious patterns. Radio check-ins occurred at predictable intervals. Supply runs followed consistent schedules. Even combat patrols had developed timing patterns that allowed enemy forces to avoid contact when they chose discretion and engage when conditions favored them. This pattern here, Blackwood indicated a series of red markers on the tactical display, shows 17 ambush sites from the past 6 months. Notice the common factor. Colonel Martinez examined the data carefully. They're all positioned along routes used for medical evacuations. Exactly. The enemy has learned that injured personnel are evacuated using consistent flight paths and medical facilities. They're not attacking the helicopters directly. They're positioning ambushes to occur precisely when medical evacuations are most likely to be requested. The scope of the problem became clear as Blackwood's analysis revealed that virtually every aspect of American operations had become predictable to adversaries with patience and analytical capability. The enemy wasn't infiltrating American communications or bribing personnel for intelligence. They were simply observing and analyzing patterns that American forces were unconsciously creating. The countermeasures she developed were elegantly simple, requiring minimal changes to existing protocols while dramatically improving operational security. Instead of fixed schedules, she implemented randomized timing windows. Instead of predictable communication intervals, she created variable protocols that maintained necessary coordination while eliminating exploitable patterns. The key, she explained to General Cole during a midnight briefing, is to maintain operational effectiveness while introducing controlled unpredictability into every aspect of mission execution. Her modifications affected logistics, communications, patrol scheduling, and even seemingly minor details like meal timings and equipment maintenance schedules. Each change was small individually, but collectively they eliminated the predictable patterns that enemy forces had learned to exploit. On the fourth day, General Cole received the first reports from Afghanistan. The results exceeded even Blackwood's projections. Casualty rates had dropped by 73% in the first week alone. Mission success rates had improved dramatically, with objectives being achieved ahead of schedule and with significantly reduced resource expenditure. Enemy forces appeared confused and unable to anticipate American tactical decisions, read the classified cable from Kandahar. Ambush attempts have failed due to American forces arriving at unexpected times and using unpredictable routes. IED placements have been ineffective because convoy schedules no longer follow patterns that can be analyzed. The second week brought even more encouraging news. American forces were beginning to seize tactical initiative that had been lost for months. Enemy forces, unable to predict American movements, were being caught off guard and suffering significant losses. Intelligence gathering had improved dramatically as unpredictable patrol patterns allowed American forces to observe enemy activities without being anticipated. "Sir," Colonel Martinez reported during a secure video conference with theater commanders, "we're seeing the most significant tactical improvement in 18 months. Enemy forces appear to have lost their intelligence advantage completely." General Cole knew the real reason for the improvement, but the official reports attributed the success to enhanced training programs and improved intelligence gathering. Captain Blackwood's analysis remained classified at levels that prevented its acknowledgement, even in secure military communications. By the third week, the transformation was complete. American casualties had dropped to their lowest levels since the beginning of operations in Afghanistan. Mission success rates approached 90%. Enemy forces, unable to predict American activities, had been forced into reactive positions that significantly reduced their effectiveness. "The tactical advantage has shifted completely," reported Colonel James Wright, the senior ground commander in Kandahar. "Enemy forces are no longer able to anticipate our operations. They appear to be operating blind, responding to our actions instead of anticipating them." The strategic implications were profound. American forces, freed from predictable patterns that had made them vulnerable, were able to implement aggressive tactics that had been impossible when enemy forces could anticipate their movements. Intelligence gathering improved as unpredictable patrol patterns allowed observation of enemy activities without revealing American capabilities. Most importantly, American personnel were returning home safely in numbers that had seemed impossible just weeks earlier. Families were reunited, careers were preserved, and missions were accomplished with an effectiveness that validated every aspect of Blackwood's analysis. General Cole received regular updates on the continuing success of the tactical modifications. Each report confirmed that the improvements were not temporary adjustments, but fundamental changes in operational effectiveness that would continue as long as the new protocols remained in place. "How did you see what we couldn't?" General Cole asked when Captain Blackwood briefed him on the results. "Different perspective," she replied. You were focused on executing missions. I was focused on how those missions could be predicted and countered. Your report will save lives, General Cole said. This deserves recognition at the highest levels. Captain Blackwood shook her head. There will be no report, General. No recognition. No official acknowledgement of this analysis. Why not? Because officially, this analysis never happened. The improvements in operational effectiveness will be attributed to enhanced training and better intelligence preparation. General Cole understood Ghost Division operations existed in the shadows precisely because their effectiveness depended on remaining invisible. Public recognition would compromise their ability to operate in similar situations. What happens now? He asked. Now I disappear, and you continue implementing the tactical modifications we've developed. In 6 months, someone will conduct an official analysis of the improved operational effectiveness and recommend that the new procedures be adopted across all theatres. And you? I'll be somewhere else, solving problems that officially don't exist. Captain Blackwood gathered her materials and prepared to leave. General Cole watched as this unremarkable officer, who had solved his most critical operational challenge, prepared to vanish as quietly as she had appeared. "Captain," he called as she reached the door. "That watch, how many of those were made?" She paused in the doorway. "Enough," she said simply. "For how many operatives?" "The right number." General Cole nodded, understanding that some questions weren't meant to be answered completely. After Captain Blackwood left, he sat alone in his office, contemplating the implications of what had just occurred. The watch had been the key to everything. Without that simple timepiece, he would have dismissed her as another junior officer with theories about tactical improvement. The Hamilton had carried more authority than his rank, more credibility than his decorations, more power than his position. In the weeks that followed, General Cole found himself paying closer attention to the details that others overlooked. The quiet officers who seemed unremarkable, the simple accessories that might carry extraordinary significance, the possibility that the most important capabilities often came in the most unassuming packages. The improvements in Afghanistan continued, saving lives and achieving objectives that had seemed impossible just weeks earlier. But officially, those improvements had resulted from better training and enhanced intelligence gathering. No reports mentioned the quiet captain with the classified timepiece who had solved the problem in 72 hours. General Cole kept the secret, understanding that some victories were too important to be acknowledged publicly. The watch had shown him that true authority sometimes came without rank, that real capability often operated beyond recognition, and that the most crucial missions were frequently the ones that officially never happened. Captain Blackwood had vanished as completely as she had appeared, leaving behind only improved operational effectiveness and a general who understood that the most important battles were often fought by soldiers whose names would never appear in any history book.